Let's see here. There's a couple of things here. Yesterday, the president came out and said, yeah, the tariff thing, we're going to hold off on that. I mean, he didn't exactly say it that way, but I mean, in many ways, he did. He said we're going to have another 90-day holding period for the tariffs, not all of the tariffs, and I'm going to double down on China because they are the real target of the United States of being a problem. And he said, I'm going to work with every country that has reached out to us. He said, we know who they are. If you didn't reach out to the United States, if you were going to play, war games with us, well, stand in line. We're not going to necessarily help you out, but everybody else, and he says, majority of the countries are all like, let's deal. He said, so we want to do that. So we're going to take 90 days and deal with the people who have come to the table and said, let's deal. That's a really good thing, I think. I think that's kind of a positive for all of us. So what happened? Is this planned? Was this not planned? I don't think Trump is the kind of guy where he lays things out. Well, let me take you here. Let's explain the art of the deal. Okay. If you've read The Art of the Deal with Donald Trump, you know this. If you haven't read it, let me remind you, what is his negotiation playbook? It's start with an extreme position, then create leverage because you're so unpredictable, use a bold promise to shape the perception, never back down publicly when you're compromising behind closed doors. That's the art of the deal. Okay? It's less about policy details and more about winning through psychology, persistence, showmanship, tactics that he's applied from real estate to politics for decades. And people miss it because they're focusing on the noise, not the pattern. He's the ultimate Overton window guy. Just say, Stu?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Generally, yeah.
It's like in the Middle East, hey, you know what? I'm going to build a big, beautiful resort there in Gaza. No one was saying that. What did he do? He moved the Overton window so far over, he completely changes the conversation.
And much of that is it's embarrassing that the media falls for it every time. It really is.
Well, but you know what? He wrote a book about how he negotiates.
Yep.
And nobody pays attention.
Yes, I read it when I was like 12.
Yeah.
As the biggest nerd in the world.
Right. And when you look at what he did with China yesterday, he's like, and any other country that was hitting back, what is the first thing you knew before he even came down the escalator? But especially after he came down the escalator, everybody who stood against him, what is the first thing you learned on both the Republican side, Democratic side? What's the first thing you learn about punching Donald Trump?
He doesn't like it and he'll punch back.
He punches back twice as hard,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're negotiating with Donald Trump, you shouldn't punch him because his style is to punch back twice as hard, China. I'm talking to you. Bad idea.
I mean, look, they are going to. I mean, it's the Chinese Communist Party. They literally lived through the Mao era and killed 60 million of their own people to hold the line.
I know. And you know what? I don't have a problem if those are the people we're pissing off in the world.
I know.
I'm fine with that.
And of course, I think both of us would have been much more on the bandwagon with this generalized policy if this is what we did from the beginning, right? If we did a strong move on China, that would have been a lot. Even that's a lot. We get a lot. 9% of our international trade comes from them. That's already a big move. So if it was just that, I think it would have been easier to swallow for the markets and easier to swallow for people who, generally speaking, don't love this policy.
So was it Besson yesterday that said, this is Donald Trump's plan from the beginning? And he comes out and he's like, No, everybody was freaking out.
Yes, Trump himself said it wasn't the plan. I can't believe every single person I talked to yesterday, like, oh, this is part of the plan. Trump himself said it wasn't the plan.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
It's a smart thing to do for a president to adjust to circumstances.
Yes.
Right? Like that's
what you hope someone is going to do.
Exactly. You want someone to take it seriously. And like he can, it's always been part of the plan to take on China very directly and very strongly. He has done that. I don't think he needed to do this other stuff to do that. But if that's where this lands, that is a policy that most even people who believe in the strongest version of free trade you can imagine are fine with taking on China, who absolutely is doing things that are against that concept.
And here's the thing that Americans don't understand. Americans have for 85 years are used to a president when dealing with the rest of the world to walk in with carrots.
Yes.
I want to show you all these carrots. Look at all these carrots you can eat. Would you like some carrots? Let me give you a couple of carrots, okay? Donald Trump knows that because we always walk in with pockets full of carrots, everybody wants the carrots, and no, we're suckers. We're like, we're like, grandpas with those butterscotch candies, just ask grandpa, he'll give you one, okay? That's the way we behave. It's all carrots all the time.
Yeah.
So we expect our president to do that. When you're changing the world, you have to show the world, no, I'm dead serious. I'm absolutely dead serious. You have to mean what you say and say what you mean. This is negotiation 101. Say what you mean what you say, because some people just can't break off enough barnacles to go, well, he means that. Everybody thinks, I was just talking to, who was I was talking to yesterday, I think. I was talking to somebody and they said, I was negotiating a deal. And after I negotiated this deal, these people came to me and said, you really did a great job on that deal, huh? And he was like, well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, the way you played them. And he's like, I wasn't playing them. I just said, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And they might have thought I was playing a game, but I was just telling them this is, I learned this really early. Don't make threats, make promises.
You've told me that for 20-something years.
Right. Make promises.
It's the best possible advice you can have in a negotiation.
Exactly right.
Because even if they don't come to whatever you might be looking for or hoping for, you've already made the decision that the other thing is okay, and you're totally comfortable with it. So you don't come in and say, oh, well, I'm not going to, if you don't give me this, I'm not going to do this, when you don't want to do that other thing. Right. You have to be comfortable with that other thing before you come with that promise.
Because they may honestly come to the decision, well, I don't want that at that price. Okay?
Yeah,
and then
that's okay.
You can't go back and go, okay, well, I didn't mean it.
Right.
No. Mm-hmm. And you have to be comfortable with that. And sometimes, in the president's case, talking sticks and carrots, when you are trying to change the entire world and the world is used to the president walking in with some, butterscotch candy for everybody and a pocket full of carrots, you got to walk in and go, nope, none of this. None of this. And they'll say they're bluffing. No, I'm not. Yeah, he is. No, no, I'm not. I'm telling you right now. You want tariffs? I'll show you tariffs. We're going to start with 10%. Okay. I just want to get everybody used to 10% because you don't negotiate now. It's going to get really ugly. And you know what? I love tariffs. Tariffs, my favorite word in the whole world. I love tariffs. He's not bluffing. He means
really does.
That.
Yeah, he does.
Okay. He loves tariffs. So tariffs, you could argue back and forth. Well, he'll never do it because it's really bad for America. Blah, blah, blah. No, he doesn't think so. He's not bluffing. And so when the rest of the world goes, well, he's just playing a game. No, Donald Trump doesn't play that game. He doesn't play that game. And so what's happening now is he's put the world on notice. Oh, yeah, I'm just crazy enough to do the damn thing. You don't think it works? I still think it works. So you want to go back there? Go ahead. Let's go back there because I don't mind. And it is a very, very risky game, but he's not playing one. The people who are playing the game are the people that are on the other side of the table thinking he's playing a game. The only ones that I don't think are playing a game is China. The United States and China I think, are both saying the truth.
Yeah, Europe, I mean, you saw, because they did, what's funny about this, they did respond.
Yeah, they did.
And then they've now backed down as well. They said, okay, you're going to pause for 90 days, we'll pause for 90 days.
Right.
And Trump did not do to Europe what he's doing to China, which I think sends a pretty clear message that, like, what he's really focused on here is China.
Yeah.
I still don't fully understand the goal of all this, because what you're saying is, oh, well, he'll get them to back down and we'll come make a deal. Well, what's the deal we're looking for? Is the deal we're looking for to return manufacturing jobs or to get lower tariff rates and better, easier trade?
I think, honestly, he wants tariffs to return jobs to America,
Okay.
Which is going to take a very long time, would take more time than he has in office.
Certainly,
okay.
And also it doesn't have a good track record of success. That policy,
right? Generally,
but
he is bringing jobs back to America. They are investing back in America, but not necessarily because of the last couple of weeks,
right?
But because of the things that he has said. I'm going to do this.
He's doing a lot of things that are really good for business, and then they're not getting the headlines right
now. So he is wanting the jobs to come back, but in the end, Donald Trump is pragmatic. In the end, he might want what he wants, but he's not going to let that stand in the way of, that's a good deal. That's the best deal I could get for America. I'm taking that deal. He just wants the best deal he can get. And the way he does, I mean, look at his pattern. I don't understand how everybody freaks out all the time. And you know what, Stu, I said to you yesterday, I'm kind of freaked out because I'm not freaked out.
Right.
But maybe I'm not freaked out because look how it's turning out. I told you at the beginning of the week and last week, the guy knows his entire presidency hangs in the balance if this goes down the crapper. And everybody thinks he'll just flush it down the crapper. He's not suicidal.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do that.
Right, he won't. Trust this. Anybody who doesn't like Donald Trump, you will tell me all the time, this is the biggest ego of all time. He's out of control ego. Okay, then use that as your hope. He's not going to go down as the worst president that destroyed the economy and made us into a third world country. He won't do it. Just because of his ego, he's like, I'm not going to go down as that. Who would want to go down with that? But if you don't like him because of his ego, use that as your hope, because that, I think, is what happened yesterday. Not his ego. He just knew, he's watching all the trend lines and going, this is not going to work out well if I continue to play this way for very much longer. So let's change tactics, which is something you want your company or your CEO or your president to do. Don't go into it blindly. You go in and say, watch all the trend lines here. If it starts going the other way, we need to pivot as soon as we can.
And that was another reason to not panic, because this was not something that couldn't be reversed. This is not the housing crisis, right? Like, oh my gosh, everything's happening that's terrible. How do we reverse this? The reversal was obvious, right?
Yes.
The second, even when tweets came out with people with a rumor of a 90-day pause, the markets turned around.
Correct.
Everyone knows exactly why all of this happened, right?
Look at what happened yesterday. Isn't it the best day in the stock market?
Since 2008.
Since 2008.
You might not remember 2008 all that positively. These big ups and downs in a day are not necessarily good things to have.
Correct.
But
that was a fundamental problem. 2008.
Right. This is not.
This is, I can turn this valve off at any time.
Exactly. And I don't think he's going to sink his whole presidency.
No, of course he's not.
Panic, first of all, does you no good. You can't control it. This is not under your control. I mean, to the extent of, I want to buying the dip. With stocks. And that's
good for you. I almost said that. You did say that. I almost said that yesterday. Now's the time to buy.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, yes, it was.
Yeah. And then
or not get out in the first place.
I'll surely sell it at the wrong time and still lose money. But but the point is that there's no reason we're not in that mode right now. Donald Trump is doing a lot of things that are helping the economy that I think so far people are not focusing on. He has a lot more planned that will help the economy. As you know, I think these tariffs are not a positive for our economy.
Right.
But if what we're doing is a focused strategy on one country that is blatantly our adversary, that is blatantly ripping us off over and over again, that is something that I don't even think particularly controversial.
No.
I think a lot of people on the left want that to happen. I know a lot of people on the right want it to happen. So that is an approach that if that's where this lands, I don't think it's going to be the story of his presidency.
All right, more in just a second. I want to talk to you about rough greens. And actually, I want to just talk to you about Uno and give you an update. Tanya and I decided just the other day that we're going to set Uno free from his pain and everything else this weekend. So I appreciate, I run into people all the time, and they always ask me about how Uno is, or they talk about Uno. And, our dogs are part of our family, just like your dogs are part of your family. And it is really tough in the end. And so we're facing those times. But I want to tell you that rough greens, and I mean this sincerely, rough greens gave him the best years of his life. We thought Uno was healthy, but we could never get him to eat and everything else. And we switched to rough greens. And I remember talking to, the guy who came up with rough greens, and I said, I just want him to eat. I don't care if it's all that healthy. I just want him to eat, And he said, oh, he'll eat, and you'll see a difference in your dog. And I was like, yeah, okay. Not only did he eat, he ate. He would race to his bowl, and I think it just gave him the best years of his life. He changed. He was just more alive than he was before. Rough greens, try it out. Give your dog that new life and a longer life. Jumpstart trial bag. It's free. You just pay for shipping. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com, roughgreens.com. 10 seconds station ID. So yesterday, Trump did hit China with a 125% tariff. The one thing that people don't understand, and there is a great story, and if I have time, I can get into a little bit of it, but it's on theblaze.com. It's by Orrin McIntyre, and it's called The President's Plan to Restore American Manufacturing Nostalgia, and Trump Wants America to Be Ready. Okay, find it at theblaze.com, but here's what he goes into. He talks about the walkie-talkies that Israel disrupted in the supply line. They went in, they found a way into the supply line, put bombs in those walkie-talkies and those beepers, and then they were delivered, and nobody in the supply chain knew that Israel had done that, and it blew up. And it really wasn't good. We are in a house of cards. Look at what happened with China with COVID. We realized we don't make masks. We don't have ventilator. What? And we didn't make anything. That's a problem. So Donald Trump is saying enough is enough here. We have to bring manufacturing back to the country. And he talks about Leonard Reed's essay, I Pencil, the one that shows how it takes the whole globe and capitalism to make a pencil. And it's true. But he's also saying you cannot let the entire world, just for security reasons, you can no longer let the entire world make everything. You have to have some things that you can make yourself in case of an emergency, and medicine is one of those things. And that's one of the reasons why we've got to get off the teat of China. They have most of the world's reserves because they're just going around the country and just getting it all. The rare earth minerals. It's why we must get our own rare earth minerals, and we need people like Greenland to let us buy their rare earth minerals. Greenland's not making chips. We are. And I want you to read this article because it shows the method and not the madness of what we're really trying to do, what Donald Trump is trying to do and must do to write a new chapter of America.
This is Glenn Beck.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Must be president in
certain states, yeah. Springtime is here, and so is the iconic Masters tournament. Yes, it's here. PrizePicks is the best place to build a lineup featuring golfers competing in that incredible tournament.
Shouldn't you be saying it like this? Like the Masters is coming this weekend, and you can bet on it, or not bet on it, but you can
Right.
Go to Prize Picks and
Daily fantasy sports. Yes,
do
over
your
10 million
fantasy.
members.
I've got fantasies about golfers all the time.
That's an odd thing to admit.
Disturbing, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Thank you.
What
Prize
a great
Picks
sentence.
has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is really simple to use.
Wow.
Pick 2 or more players across any sport.
You notice I left the ball in the sand trap, and yet he got it out.
Thank you. Very good golf analogy. Look, if you love golf, if you love the Masters, which I'm sure you do, you're going to want to participate in Prize Picks and win a bunch of cash. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app available in 40 states. Use the code BLAZE when you are getting on with Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com. Get $50 instantly when you play only $5. It's $50 instantly for only $5. PrizePicks.com.
Right. Stephen Moore is coming up in just a second. The president's tariff pause. What does he think? I know he was involved in the decision. I'm pretty sure he was involved in this. The one, the only good friend of the program, Stephen Moore, the founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Boy, it has been it's been a scary few days, Stephen. The president, he is a great negotiator because he just doesn't blink. Some people will say he blinked yesterday. I think he just, he's smart. He's not suicidal. He's just reevaluating things and doing what, Stephen?
Well, good morning, Glenn. Look, Trump, one thing I've learned from Donald Trump, having worked with him for the last 8 years or so off and on, is the guy is crazy like a fox.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yep.
And so sometimes he's 2 or 3 moves on the chessboard ahead of everybody else. And so I don't know if calling this a retreat
I don't
is
think
the right way to describe it.
I don't think so. But you'll hear
the media is saying that.
Yeah, the media is saying that.
And what I'm saying is, and maybe it is a retreat, but maybe this was part of the plan all along. I mean, in terms of, trying to get these countries to come to the table, negotiate. And look, Glenn, you know me, I'm more of a free trade guy than Trump is, and I'm not a big fan of tariffs. But if he can pull this off, and this would be a maestro if he could do it, then all of a sudden you get fair and freer.
Yeah. You're breaking up.
Basically agree to play at the level playing field.
Yeah.
And so Trump, and the other thing that Trump is doing, and I think this is masterful, and I agree with him wholeheartedly on this. Look, there is one major villain in the world today, and that is China. And, you've been on the story a long time, Glenn, as long as I've known you. I mean, China is, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me on this, they are like Japan circa 1937.
Oh, yeah.
They really
big
are.
Time.
I mean,
big time. Japan told us what they were going to do in like 1937.
Exactly.
They told us.
And
China is now
China's
too.
doing the same thing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we're not listening.
Right.
And so, and what Trump is basically doing is, and this is a big moment for the world economy and for world peace. Trump is saying to these other countries in the world, you've got to make a choice. Are you with us or are you with China? And I don't even know. These Europeans are so stupid. They were saying a couple of weeks ago, well, maybe we'll just trade with China and stop trading with the United States. Now, that would be a catastrophically bad decision. But the whole idea here, as I see it, maybe I have, I'm not in Donald Trump's mind, so I sometimes he sees it way beyond what I do. But I think what he wants to do is basically decouple.
You're breaking up. Stephen, you there? What did you just say?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What did you just say?
Okay, sorry. I was saying that I think he wants to decouple. This is Trump's grand plan. He wants to decouple the world economy.
Yes, from China.
Yeah.
You got to get into another room or another state, or have you tried Patriot Mobile?
I will say we are tariffing Stephen's phone call today, so that could be the cause of this. Yeah.
Are you on Huawei? Are you there?
Sorry, I lost you there again. We had a bad connection, but I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
So he wants the world to decouple from China, but I think also At the same time, he wants the Western world, to decouple from this idea of a managed decline.
Right.
And he's trying to, and I think this is hopefully working with the rest of the world. He needs to break all the barnacles off that have just been, on the hull of this ship forever now, saying, well, this is the way it's going to be. He's scraping all those barnacles off and saying, no, it's not going to be that way anymore. So you need to make a decision. You're either going to manage your own decline and throw in with China, or you're going to go a new direction that really only he and Malay and a few others are laying out.
It's so funny you should mention that, because do you know who the two most popular politicians in the world are today?
Malay and Donald Trump?
Trump. I mean, the two populist, pro-people, pro-free enterprise, anti-big government leaders. And I've been predicting this. I think I said this on your show a few weeks ago, and I maintain this. I think you're going to see a Trumpian revolution all over the world.
I do, too.
I mean, these European leaders, they are so out of touch with their voters. I mean, remember the very start of the Trump revolution was when Britain was shocked that that majority of their people wanted out of the European Union. They said, we're not going to have these bureaucrats in Brussels tell us how we live our lives and what tea kettles we can use in our kitchen. And so these arrogant, out of touch, self-righteous politicians are going to be thrown out of office for pro-people and pro-working class politicians, and so Trump, I think Trump has started a world revolution here. I really do.
Yeah, I think Maloney is in that category. She's just, I think, a little softer, but I think she could be in that. I don't know about Marine Le Pen now that they've thrown her out. I mean, that just
not bogus charges.
Yeah, it seems
they did to her exactly what the left tried to do to Donald Trump.
Correct.
With all the bogus lawsuits.
Correct.
Right.
And those countries like France that are doing that, I think are going to be in real trouble. It was interesting to me that the Prime Minister of England came out, Starmer, who is absolutely a WEF clone.
He's horrible.
He's horrible. And he came out and was like, the age of globalization is over. You can't play this game. You can't say that and then be part of globalization. It's going to end really badly for him. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah. I think Britain is really in bad shape right now, and they need to find a Trump candidate, and maybe it's who's the one who I'm blanking out his name, the guy who led Britain out of.
Our friend.
I'm having a senior moment here.
I know,
anyway,
two of them.
Anyway, I do think that's going
to Nigel Farage.
Nigel, yeah. Right, exactly. And, and I mean, friends with Nigel, I couldn't remember his name.
know.
But anyway, I think he could be the next leader of Britain. And so I don't know which way the Europeans are going to go, frankly. I mean, I think they're totally confused with their leadership in these countries. And by the way, I've got to tell you, Glenn, I've been doing over the last month almost every day, like BBC and all these European stations and, some of the Asian stations. And they're so indignant. And they're like, Trump is causing a trade war here. What is it? What is wrong with this guy? Blah, blah, blah. And I just very calmly say, well, listen, your tariffs in Britain or Germany or, Japan, whatever country it is, I say, your tariffs are 3 or 4 times higher than ours. So you're saying Trump is starting a trade war. We're saying you already started the trade war. How can you self-righteously say, how dare Trump raise his tariffs when your tariffs are 3 or 4 times? You know what? They never even answer the question.
Well, because
they just move on.
Here's the thing. They expect that to be the norm because we rebuilt. I mean, the reason why we accepted these things early on was because we didn't want to. We wanted to make sure the Germans not having jobs is a very bad idea.
Right.
We wanted Germans to be able to rebuild their factories and Mercedes-Benz and everything else. So we had those, and now they just expect that to be the norm. And Donald Trump is like, it was the norm. It can no longer be the norm.
And you know what? You're exactly right about that, Glenn. And I would just add something. One of the things we've learned from this is that
this call is no longer being recorded.
Sorry.
Okay.
One of the things we've learned from
this. Are you in prison? Are you calling from a prison?
I don't know why that happened. Sorry about that. But it's what you were just describing, that kind of American relationship with like rebuilding Europe. it's like the welfare state. Where people become dependent on a welfare state, and Europe is dependent on the welfare that we give them. And that's why one of the first things Trump did that I thought was so fantastic is that, if you're not paying your NATO dues, we're out. And they again, they bitched and they moaned and they complained, but guess what? They played their notice.
I know.
The indignation and the self-righteousness and the sense of entitlement of these countries, it drives me absolutely nuts.
So let me ask you: the stock market is down again.
It's down again. Yeah. It's
Why?
Topsy-turvy for a while. Well, that's a good question. Why? I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, who knows why? It was way up yesterday on Dow Jones on a per point basis was up more than any time any day in American history. But I'm going to, look, it's going to be up and down until this reset happens, and it's going to be topsy-turvy, I think, for the next several months. So get ready for that, folks. But at the end of the day, I think Trump will prevail. I think we're going to have a much securer economy, and these countries are going to stop treating us like we're daddy warbucks.
So, because we're seemingly never out of war, but we are out of bucks.
There you go.
Stephen, yesterday I sent you something about the basis trade, and this is something that's so in the weeds for most people. But what's happening to the hedge funds and our bonds, and that looked really frightening. Is that going to stop? Because that was something that they were doing before. They said it might have been, blown over with a feather of Trump. This is something that's been going on, and there are deep, deep cracks in it. How's that? How's that going?
So just for background, what happened starting a few days ago is that foreigners started to sell their U.S. bonds, and that happened in Japan. And then Russia was selling some of their bonds. China was selling their bonds. And the interest rate on those bonds, when people sell bonds, that means you have to pay more interest to get people to buy them.
Right.
And so the interest rate went from like 3.5 to 4.5. Not exactly, but almost up a full percentage point.
Right.
And so that's bad for America because that means we owe $35 trillion and the debt turns over, and that means when those bonds come due, then we have to issue new bonds at a higher interest rate. And as you've reported on this many times, I think interest expenses are like the second highest expenditure in our federal budget. So, but if you're not going to invest in U.S. bonds, are still the safest in the world by far. There's no other. Are you going to buy Russian bonds? Are you going to buy European bonds? So I'm not too concerned about it. I think that, but China has several $1 trillion of our bonds, and this is why having such an enormous deficit is a problem. And because then we have to borrow money from people we don't want to have to borrow money from.
Right? Are they? I mean, they're serious. We just said Trump is serious on China. China is serious on us. Are they able to dump our bonds, survive? Are they able to really fight this war out? I mean,
no,
they're not.
So this is the key insight that Donald Trump has made, which is so right on the mark, that our economy is still substantially bigger than China's. In fact, our stock market is 5 times higher than China. So they're not even close with respect to the net worth of their companies. You just take the Magnificent Seven; they have more value than every company in China. So we have a huge lead on them. And the fact is that now, look, they've been catching up, no question. And look, I want to give you guys, your listeners, a little history lesson. What happened in China, and first of all, Mao was the greatest villain who ever lived, probably in the history of mankind. He murdered 100 million people, of his own people, and yet he's still on the currency. They still have pictures of Mao. That would be like us putting Benedict Arnold on our currency. And so then you had the free market revolution that happened in the early 1980s, which was amazing. It shows they went from communist overnight to free markets, and their economy exploded. Exploded for about 20 years. Then we decided to let them into the World Trade Organization because they were on the road to freedom. And then President Xi comes in and he goes back to communism. This is an oversimplification, but not much of one. So we're not dealing with a free enterprise. We're dealing with a very dangerous country right now. And Xi has said this. In 20 years, he said, we want China to take over the world.
Yes.
And we were just sitting by and letting that happen. And Trump finally said, no, that isn't going to happen. Now, we have benefited over the last 30 years from being able to get cheap things from China, but their economy is completely dependent on having access to America's $20 trillion consumer market. If Trump says you don't have access to that anymore, they go through a Great Depression that makes like what happened in the United States in the 1930s look like a picnic. And that's the leverage that Trump is using with China. He's saying that you either start behaving yourself or we're going to throw you into the worst depression you ever had. Now, it will hurt us, but it's not going to hurt us nearly as much as it's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
So
it'll hurt the people
we're at right now.
It'll hurt the people that shop at Walmart hardest.
Right.
You know, the bottom of the society, you know, the ones that are just scraping by all the time, they're the ones that are going to be hit the hardest here in America. But it is something where we're just going to have to help our neighbors more, not expect the government to do it, but help our neighbors more, because it is crucial that we decouple the world and ourselves from China as much as we can.
So can I know we're
real quick.
I want to make one other quick point. We have to have a movement, you and I, called Sell China. And what I mean by that is every one of us as citizens of this great country, just make a point of it. Just stop buying things from China. You might have to pay $3 more for a pair of shoes. You may have to pay $3, $4 more for the T-shirt. Do it. If you love your country, stop buying China.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Stephen Moore. Back in just a second. In today's world, protecting your identity is just another part of life. You have accounts for everything, your finances, healthcare, travel, shopping, everything. And it's a potential window some cyber criminal can crawl through to get your identity. And half the time, they don't even have to guess your passwords anymore. They buy stolen information from data breaches and then exploit that. And they slip quietly into your life without you even knowing about it until it's too late. But this is where LifeLock comes in. LifeLock is here to help. They monitor for threats and on your identity, and then they work to fix it. It's easy to protect yourself with LifeLock, and you can save 40% off now using the promo code Beck at 1-800-LifeLock. 1-800-LifeLock, lifelock.com. Make sure you use the promo code Beck at lifelock.com. 1-800-LifeLock.
What you're hearing are your thoughts via the mind and mouth of Glenn Beck. More next.
You know, it's a weird time when the stock market feels like basically like a toddler's mood swings. One day it's up, the next day we're in full-blown panic. You know, inflation kind of still lingering, although down, not really being reported today. Headlines shift by the hour. Your portfolio is kind of stuck riding the chaos. This is where we are at the moment. Nothing to panic about, but still there is a bigger issue, because when you're trying to keep up with the news cycle, you're trying to keep up with the market, your money should be working for you, not against you. If you're one of the, if you're with one of these like big Wall Street firms, there's a good chance that your hard-earned dollars are backing ESG mandates and radical agendas and woke corporate causes, stuff that runs completely counter to faith and family and freedom. And that's not just frustrating, it's really dangerous, because this is everything you're standing against. Why do you want your money going toward those things? Constitution Wealth can help you with this. They're not another investment firm. They're here to exist and help you invest with purpose. That means building a portfolio rooted in biblical principles and conservative values that actually reflect what you believe. And their team are not just financial professionals, which they are, but they live the same values that you do. So when you talk about this, you talk about making a difference in the parallel economy, you're talking about freedom, think about Constitution Wealth. Go get a free consultation today. constitutionwealth.com/blaze, constitutionwealth.com/blaze.
All right, you sick freak. Okay, coming up in just a second, we have more. We have Brian Lamb on. We've had him on before. He's the Colossal co-founder and CEO. Those are the people that brought the direwolf back. Yeah, we want to talk to him. We want to talk to him about that and things like what is China doing? Where's this technology going? Next.
This is Glenn Beck.